In this tutorial, we're going to talk about four different files. There's the Stickman01 file, which is the starting where we'll look at animating a walk sequence, the legs only, and it's your start file. The Stickman01 is the finished file where the legs are moving. And then Stickman02 start is where we incorporate the body and the arms in the rest of the walk sequence, and then Stickman02 finished is the final product. So, well, let's take a look first at the final product to see what we are shooting for. Okay, so we have a very short animation here with a guy walking, and he's walking along a path. So as you can see, as he's cruising along, he's basically a stick man. But he's got an armature created for each leg and arm, and there's a slight up and down motion with his body and his head here. And again, we have the background coming by. So let's take a look at how this is created. Let's go ahead and take a look before we start getting into the details at what a walk sequence should have. So in the Stickman01 file, there is, if we go into the library, there's a walk sequence images movie clip. And if we go check that out, then we can take a look at all of the different steps. Okay, so here we are, and I'm going to zoom in so we can go through these one by one. As you can see here, I have a line here to sort of show the up and down movement that's happening with the head bopping. And then we have the legs, and I have one highlighted so that you can see how each leg is moving. That's the leg that's closest to us. And you can also turn off the highlight if you want to see this without the highlight on there. But we have a few different, four different main areas in a walk sequence that I want to point out. First is the contact. So here we notice that the contact of the foot, right, and we're leaving. Then there's the recoiling. So we're kind of like using the hamstring here to bring the leg up. Then the next is passing. So that's when the leg starts to pass over the other leg. And then the high point, where it reaches the full extent of going up again. Then we repeat. So then from there it comes down to a contact where it's the contact on the heel. Okay, the recoil is the heel sliding along here to the left, and then passing, we continue to pass the other leg, and then the high point is the last point before we go to the original contact, which was on the toes right before the foot left the ground, which is right here. So this is an example of the walk sequence, and we'll revisit this in a little while too. But I wanted to give you that heads up on how to do a walk sequence. Now let's go ahead and go into the first one of seeing the stick man here, where we're just going to see, as I scrub along here, we're only seeing the legs move here. Okay. So we're going to see how to create that. If we go to the Stickman01 and then creating the legs part here, what we'll do is notice that there's a leg on the layer. If I take a look and see what it is, it's an instance of the graphic symbol leg. It could also be a movie clip. So if we look, there is leg in our library. It's actually a movie clip, but I set it over here to a graphic symbol so that we could create a duplicate, so we can have two legs and start the other one in the middle, and because really you only have to do this once. So if we double click to go inside, already there's a label layers, and you can see there's the contact area, the recoil, the pass, the high, all of the areas where all you have to do is make the different positions. So notice that we're starting with contact right here, and then I have armature leg, and it is not an armature until we create it into an armature. So to do that, we'll go ahead and select the bone tool, and then once we have the bone tool selected, we're going to start with the top, and we're going to click and drag down and then connect that to the knee, and then from the knee to the ankle, and the ankle here to the toe, and then a little bit on the toe. And now, if I switch using V, I can see that I should be able to, yep, sure enough, move this armature. Now, what you might want to do is just move out to each point. So if we move out to where the recoil, actually, what we should do is make sure that this pose, since this is exactly the ending loop, right? We should have that pose be at the end. So deselect, then we're going to control click right on the frame. We're going to copy the pose, go to the very end, and control click on the last keyframe and insert the pose. That ensures that we've got a loop there. Okay, now let's go ahead and just build the animation as we go along. So we'll go over to the recoil. Okay, and at the recoil, if you're wondering, oh, what is that supposed to look like again? Yep, I put them up here on top so we could actually look at the recoil. So there's the recoil right here. And we'll take a look at it. So you can see that when we looked over here at the contact, then the recoil, so the leg's moving up, and then we continue on like so. Alright, so it's just kind of moving up and recoiling there. Alright, let's go ahead and add that recoil. So at this point, all I have to do is move. So this is bent in a little bit. The leg is back, right? And and then I might want to see what did the toe look like again? Okay, so the toe is flat here. This is just one example, one simple example. You can make all sorts of kinds of walks, but and this takes a lot of practice, but once you start getting good at this, you can do some really great animations. Okay, you could also, if you wanted to, go ahead and make these. You could reduce the size of your stage, which I'm doing over here, to say 50%, and then you could actually bring over the one that you're shooting for. So here you can see that's what we're shooting for, right? You could actually just do that. That's a way of cheating as well. Not cheating, just learning. And so anyway, what you would do is you'd go ahead and fix so this looks exactly right. So I'm going to move the toe here. And by the way, if I want to move this toe part right here, see how I got a little bit of it's a little off here, or maybe this knee needs to be moved back. Hold down the Alt or Option key on your keyboard, and then you can click and drag. You can do little fine-tune adjustments like that. So I can actually just move just the part. That's a really good way to then see. Now when we scrub, there is the recoil. So the leg's coming up. Okay, so next is the pass. See, the next would be the passing. So if we could take a look at passing, there it is. So it's actually coming across, and the knee's there, knee's pointing out. So I'll go ahead and then make that pose. So I'll move the playhead over here to where the passing label is, and then we'll go ahead and just bring the knee over, and maybe this comes in a little bit. Okay, and so there we have the passing. Okay, I won't spend too much time on this, but you can see how you can just keep working it just to get it exactly the way you want. Let's just go ahead a little bit further. After passing, okay, is the high point. Okay, so now I'm trying to create the high point. Okay, so I move my playhead again to make a new pose at the high point. Bring the leg up, and just get it to the way you want it. You can again fine-tune these things, and then the contact is the last one again. So here, high point, and then contact where the heel hits the bottom there. Okay, so let's take a look at how that would work. Okay, so the heel is hitting the bottom on the high point. So we're going from here, where we're at the high point, make it a little higher even, okay, to the contact, which is on the heel, right? Bend the leg down a little bit because we're no longer on the high point, and the foot's almost flat, but really we've got just the heel sort of hitting here, and this toe is not bent yet. So we'll change that, And then again, using the Alt key, we can click and do just slight modifications. Okay. When we scrub and see what we've got, there's the recoil, the pass, the high point, and there we go. So now once it gets to this point, you just continue on doing the same process that we were doing here, but you can see that what happens is that the foot, once it hits contact here, then it sort of flattens out on the recoil, and then the flatness continues on to the passing. So that's how you get this illusion of the foot hitting the ground and then moving along. So you would just continue on with that, and then once you're done with that, all you would do is in your main timeline, you take your leg layer and you duplicate it, and I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate the layer that's there, and I'm just going to show you this just so you get the idea. Of course, we didn't finish this, but you can experiment on your own and finish this off for yourself. But if I select one of these, I change the behavior to be a graphic symbol over here, and that was so that we could change the first, so that the first one, instead of being on, could be on frame 1, and that way we can have the legs use the same legs for both sides. And then when you scrub, you can see how there they go. We've got a walk sequence. Ideally, I would make the second leg starting at the exact center of the finished animation, but you get the idea here. Okay, so next, moving on, if we assume that the leg is finished here, and now what we want to do is the legs are finished, and we want to work on the arm. Okay, so if we were to work on the arm, again, all we have to do here is, and I'm going to make this a little bit larger. There we go, so we can see. So we've got the leg animation going, and it's about the whole animation is about 45 frames long. And of course, all of this could be done in a movie clip timeline, so that you could bring an instance of this guy on the stage, or even a whole bunch of these guys all walking. So now if I select the arm, this is a graphic symbol or a movie clip symbol that's been changed its properties to act like a graphic symbol. Double click to go inside of it, and you can see that armature 3, we're all ready to go here, but we don't have an armature set up right now. Actually, we do. This one is created for you, and all you have here is this one armature, which is basically the shoulder joint and the elbow joint. Since it's already set up in there, let me show you how that was set up again. And I'm going to control click on the armature layer, and I'm going to say remove armature. Okay, now we're back to just a regular old arm that has two symbols on it, this forearm symbol, and this upper arm symbol. And we'll go ahead and create the bone structure, so we'll use the bone tool. Again, clicking here from the shoulder all the way down to the elbow. Now if I had more, like a hand, a wrist, fingers, you can get as detailed as you want. But all we need at this point, I'm going to hit the letter V on my keyboard so that I can switch. See, now really it's, yeah, you can eat. Right? You can say, over there. You can say, come on everybody, come on. So a lot of different things you can do there. And we will now animate it, which is a lot of fun and really easy, pretty easy to do. All we have to do is the same thing that we did with the legs, except we're going to do this with just a simple about 3 keyframes here. So we start with the beginning keyframe, and we copy the pose again. So I deselect everything, control click on just that keyframe, and I copy the pose, go to the very end keyframe, control click on that, and I insert the pose. Now we have the beginning and the ending. Go to about the middle, and at that point we can just go ahead and move the arm back, right? Maybe change the forearm a little bit, and then when we scrub you can see the arms coming back and forward. Now notice how we're pretty close here in this one to being off the edge, and maybe I want to move that a little bit forward. Okay, so that might be the case. I can easily do that again by holding down the Alt key, but I'll wait because I'm going to go ahead and move the body as well. So let's see what we have if we go to the main timeline, and there we go. We've got, okay, so that's looking good. Next, let's go ahead and animate the body. So if we've got select the body is an instance of a symbol, and it is the symbol body. I double click to go inside its timeline, and here, since there's all of this stuff, I'm just going to select it all and convert this to a symbol. And we've got a body inside of a body. I can animate the eyes and the head and body separately. Actually, what I'll do is, instead of doing that, is I'll just grab the eyeball and I will cut using Edit, Cut, and then come down to the head and bodies layer and then Edit and then paste in place. Okay, there we go. Now we have the inside of the body. We have all of this as one. But again, it is kind of confusing because we have to make this a symbol in order for us. Well, we don't have to make it a symbol, but actually, let's not make it a symbol. Let's go ahead and do this as a motion. I'm sorry, as a bone, using the bone tool on a shape. Okay, so since it's something different. Okay, so I can get rid of the eye layer since we don't need that. We have this whole structure, and I'll go ahead and create a bone. So we'll use the bone tool again. And really, the whole thing is all on one. So if I just continue this whole way up, there we go. Now let's see how this works. This might not work like I intended, but if I grab this, nope. Okay, I'm gonna change it different since we could make a snake or something like that, but really I want this whole thing to work as one. And then just pretty much move down here at the bottom. This could all actually be done with just a simple motion tween. So if I select all of these things right here, make this into a symbol, modify, convert to symbol, and let's just call this body whole, and we'll just say OK there. Now back in the library, you can always change the names of the symbols. So back in the library, I'm going to actually, just to make this less confusing, is body whole. Why don't I change body here to body animation? Okay, because this is going to be because we're actually working in the body animation area, because we're going to make his head and body bop back and forth. Okay, so we can do this with a very simple motion tween. And to do that, all we're going to do is, first of all, set the timeline out to, say, frame 44. And then F5 on your keyboard. We're going to create a motion tween. Control click on there, on the layer, and you can choose motion tween. And then let's go ahead and make sure that on the very first keyframe that we put the rotation point right down on the hips. So to do that, I'm going to grab the free transform tool, or the letter Q. I'm going to grab this little guy right here, this little white thing, and bring it all the way down to here. Okay. Now we can do a simple animation at this point. And what I like to do at this point is, again, I like to have the beginning and the ending be the same. So if I select the tween and then I go into the motion editor, you can see that there's a keyframe that's set up over here on the very first frame. And if I scroll down to the very ending frame, make sure that my playhead's all the way at the end, then I can just add another keyframe here, add or remove keyframes. And by doing that, when I go back to the timeline, I can see that sure enough, I've added a keyframe and it's exactly like the first one. So now all we have to do is do the middle. So if we come into the middle, and you would experiment with all this, but if I come to the middle and select this guy and then maybe make his head rotate a little bit forward. Okay, so now if I scrub this, I've got this little bit of a bob, and actually we didn't quite get exactly back where we wanted to. Okay, so from here what I can do is let's undo at this point, go back, make sure that we've got this right. I went all the way back to where it should stay the same. Okay, and then I'm going to double click inside to make sure that in my motion editor, when I go to the very end frame, there is a keyframe there. Okay, Good, it's all there, rotation X and Y, and we should have been able to change this one without having that affect this one, this ending one. So let's try that again. Come out to the middle, make a change, slight rotation. There we go. Now it's acting right. Bobbing forward and then bobbing back. Okay, so he comes forward and bobs back. Now when we go back to the main timeline and scrub the timeline, there we go. We've got the whole thing moving together. The last thing we'll look at is the Stickman02 finished file. And here, the only difference is that on the main stage, I added a background. So if I turn off the eyeball on the ground layer, you can see that this is just the walk sequence. But if I turn the eyeball on, actually let's just focus on what's going on without the eyeball, just the background. It's just moving. It's just going along. Okay? And then I just worked on timing it so that it would hopefully look as real as possible as far as his feet hitting the ground. And you could do a lot more to improve this. So have fun with using bones. They take a little bit of work, but if you keep experimenting, I think you're really going to like them.